wrote this in the form of a letter to Dick because it just felt more intimate for me to do it that way and feel like I was in conversation with him directly. And I actually just feel as though he's really present with us here and now in spirit and, feeling our words and our thoughts and our hearts. So here we go. Dear Dick, what an honor it is to be celebrating you. As I reflect on who you have been to me as an extraordinary father and human being, I'm overwhelmed with gratitude. Among so many remarkable qualities, I believe you were the kindest man I have ever known. I still marvel that a man of such intelligence and intellect remains so anchored in his heart, loving, sensitive, compassionate, and genuinely caring towards others. Thank you for your constant and unwavering love and support, not only for me, but for all of us. Early in my life, you seemed to recognize that I was sensitive in a particular way, and not as academically driven as you were. Rather than pressuring me to follow that path, you chose instead to support my own interests and inspirations. It began with gymnastics, which became a serious commitment involving long practices and travel to competitions. Through all of it, you were always my greatest fan and encourager, alongside Mom, of course. Then came my love of horses, and there you were again, building a stall in an old barn so I could board my horse, investing your time, energy, and faith in me to take on that responsibility. Driven always by a sincere desire to nurture what brought me joy. Then came those difficult years, the confused and rebellious years of adolescence and into early adulthood, when I made choices that you may not have always understood or agreed with, yet, even then you stood by my side with the same steadfast, unconditional love, respecting my individuality and trusting my journey. I later realized what an extraordinary gift and challenge that is as a parent. Whenever I struggled or went through painful times, you would look me directly in the eyes and remind me how loved I was and what a beautiful person you believed me to be. Those moments have stayed with me. As a grandfather, you brought that same devotion and love to John and Chris, touching their lives deeply and filling their hearts, and later extending that love to include Ryan, Misty, Dustin, Parker, Silas, Elena, and Elodie. Beyond the tremendous love you gave, you were simply so much fun to be with. You carried a spirit of adventure, curiosity, and joy. You loved exploring new places, traveling, being in nature, and appreciating the beauty of the world around you. There was never a dull moment. Backpacking trips, canoeing, camping, skiing adventures. Who else would pack a family of 5 into a Volkswagen Bug and travel throughout Switzerland and Europe for a 9-month sabbatical? Who else would spend hours building a reflector oven out of sticks and tinfoil to bake a blueberry cobbler over a campfire with the wild blueberries we had picked while camping in northern Maine? And yeah, noted that it did collapse during the baking. Who but you made an event out of Sunday morning waffles? You made life exciting. You moved through life with a great sense of humor, openness, and grace. You never spoke unkindly about others. Through you, I learned the art of appreciating the present moment and how to savor the gifts of life, family and friendship, and simple experiences. You taught me what unconditional love is. As the daughter of a brilliant physicist, you may not have always fully understood my path of spiritual seeking, yet that never mattered because we always met in the heart. And in many ways, you became one of my greatest spiritual teachers. Our shared memories are cherished and eternal, and my gratitude for you is beyond words. Your contribution to this life and to all of us is immeasurable. I so miss your smile, your warm hugs, and beautiful presence, which live forever in my heart, till we meet again. Thank you. And John? Okay.
Okay, take that back though. About public speaking, I think my sisters did a very good job there. Got a tough act to follow. Okay. I really appreciate everybody being here. I think it's a testimony to my father, how special he was. What I want to share about my father is not so much what he did, but what I learned from him. Oddly enough, I think I got to know Dick best during the last years of his life. As old age slowed him down, life became simpler. Many of the things that once filled his days fell away, and what remained were the things that mattered most: family, friends, connection, and the simple pleasures of everyday life. As I watched him during those years, I realized I wasn't seeing a different version of my father. I was seeing the same person he had always been. Dick had a childlike wonder, curiosity, and passion and instinct. He knew what he loved and pursued it wholeheartedly. One of my favorite stories that he told was from kindergarten. The class was making butter by shaking cream in a glass jar and passing it from classmate to classmate. When the jar got passed to him, he became so fascinated by the process that he wouldn't give it back. He just kept shaking it because he wanted the magic to happen in his own hands. That story makes me smile because it sounds exactly like the Dick I know. Whether it was science, football, coffee, Wordle, sourdough bread, ice cream sundaes, or fill in the blank. Everybody has something. When Dick liked something, he was all in. Looking through family photos, there seems to be an endless collection of pictures of him enjoying fill in the blank. That same enthusiasm guided the bigger decisions in his life. At a young age, he became fascinated with science, and he knew he wanted to be a physicist. And when he met Rosemary, he knew he had found the woman he wanted to spend his life with. He didn't spend much time wavering or second-guessing himself. He followed what mattered most to him. Dick and Rosemary weren't just husband and wife. They were best friends, confidants, playmates, and meant the world to each other, genuinely enjoying their life together. They were and are so intertwined, it's hard to think of Dick and Rosemary without including the other. One fun story I remember is, while whitewater rafting on the American River in California, Mom, Rosemary, fell out of the raft. Whenever Dick told the story, the part he always focused on was his reaction. He would reenact himself yelling, "Get her!" It was pure instinct. That was Dick. When I think about my own childhood, I realize how much of it was spent doing things with him. I remember going to UMass football games together. We'd throw the football back and forth while running passing routes near the marching band and listening to the drums. I remember going on runs through the Berkeley Hills at night when I was in high school. I remember welcoming my friends from the East Coast and him taking us backpacking hiking in the mountains of California. At the time, I took those experiences for granted. Only later did I realize what a great gift those moments were and how fortunate I am to have them. In more recent years, our relationship changed. Every Sunday, I would talk with my parents on the phone. Dick always wanted to hear about my Wim Hof meetup group. It's cold plunging. And he would ask, how many people showed up? Did you lead it? How did it go? That was one of our big connecting points. At the time, it felt like simple conversation. Now I realize it was another way Dick showed his love. He paid attention to what mattered to the people he cared about. I also learned through my mom how important our weekly family Zoom calls were to him. Even when he didn't say much, he was listening closely. And every once in a while, he would surprise me with a thoughtful question that reminded me of how engaged he really was. The last time I visited with him, conversation was difficult. There wasn't much to say. But I remember realizing that talking wasn't really the point. Just being together mattered. Sitting in the same room together mattered. A long goodnight mattered. A long hug goodnight mattered. Those moments taught me something about Dick and something about life. Those moments, those important things are the most important things. Okay, now here's where I'm losing it. The most important things are the simplest. There's one final thing I'd like to share. On the day Dick died, I was working outside at a tower site with a crew of climbers. It was a beautiful day. I was outdoors doing work that I loved, surrounded by close colleagues. And standing there, I realized I could feel Dick's presence. Okay, this is what I got hung up before. I could feel him in my love of being outside. I could feel him in the joy I take in my work. I could feel him in the appreciation for simple pleasures. And I realized so much of what I value in life has roots in him. After Dick died, I kept one thing, his wristwatch. Later, I went into hip surgery. I wore this watch. It reminded me, it brought me peace. It's because it reminded me of Dick. I thought about Dick when I thought about Dick, and I think about him now. I remember his enthusiasm, joy, steadiness, devotion, and deep love of life, and me, and of me. I think about someone who knew what he loved and spent his life pursuing it wholeheartedly. What I carry forward from Dick is more than memories. I carry forward the quality of his being. For that, I will always be grateful. I love you, Dick. And Desiree is going to come up and read a poem written by Dick's grandson, John, who's here today. Uh-oh. You gotta be kidding me.
Okay, it's my pleasure to read this poem. It's written by John Whitaker, Dick's grandson, Jen's son. It was written for Dick's 90th birthday last year. Title. First and foremost, let me begin by saying we love you. Deep from within, and though we can't say it enough, sometimes finding the words can be tough. You see, words won't describe the memories that we share. They won't do them justice, they just won't compare. So when painting that picture to show how much we care, it's just not the same, and to me, that's not fair. But as I pick up the brush to drag on the canvas, the picture becomes clear. These words will not vanish. These memories live on, as they change to emotion. The impact they have are the most precious of moments. Our visits with you were always the best. Wake up in the morning and before we got dressed, waffle, 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 Tata would express. And we'd all gather for breakfast for a waffle contest. Scrabble was played as we were digesting our food. Chris and I fought, but to break up the feud, we'd all take a hike to switch up the mood. Having kids of our own gives me that point of view. My favorite time of year was always the fall, with the beautiful colors as I think back and recall. With the change of the season came UMass football. George Parks would conduct the Minutemen band from the wall. We'd play catch on the field and run our own plays, and when we got tired, it was off to the maze. Of course, by this time, we built up an appetite. Antonio's Pizza was the best place to grab a bite. We'd always rent movies on our way back to the house, but hot fudge sundaes came first. Then we'd lounge on the couch. All snuggled and cozy, and volume turned loud. It was time for a movie in Dolby Surround. These memories help keep us close. Though we live at a distance, I cherish our time spent doing Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's hard to explain how much that I miss this, but I'm just happy we have these family traditions. It is no surprise, you're the rarest of guys. You're the perfect example. If I need parent or marriage advice, I look up to you a lot, more than you realize. You're a role model to me, not to mention you're wise. It makes perfect sense that physics is one of your passions. The love that you show has had equal and opposite reactions. However, Newton's third law shows only a fraction, but the impact you've had is more than you imagine. Happy 90th birthday on the 4th of July, though it may seem that time has just flown by. One thing is for certain, we cannot deny, we love you forever. You're all our sunshine. We love you, Tata, John, Alyssa, Parker, and Silas. Oh yeah, sorry. I need to introduce Ryan Whitaker. She's going to sing a song.
I'm repositioning the microphone here. Before I introduce who I am, I just want to say that you'll notice a recurring theme. I am also going to talk about waffles, the famous waffles. Those were a big deal. Hi, I'm Ryan Whitaker. Tata wasn't a grandparent by blood, but a grandparent by choice. I can't talk about Tata without talking about Rosemary, so you hear a lot of they in my speech. John and Chris are blood brothers to me, and and Grandma and Tata are step grandparents to me, if we're trying to make sense of the family tree. But the truth is simple, I've known them my whole life, and I've loved them since. I can't remember my life without having them there. With few great role models in my childhood, I give them much credit for shaping who I am. They taught me about kindness, integrity, boldness and confidence, freedom and respect. They're some of the most progressive people I've ever known, even into old age, which is really impressive. When we assume older generations can't get with the program, they've proved the opposite, always willing to listen, to learn, and to move with the world with strong advocacy for human rights. Some of my fondest childhood memories were the adventures that they gave me: horseback riding lessons, the Nutcracker, Jacob's Pillow, trips to the Eric Carle Museum, hiking, 4-hour operas, UMass basketball games, cross-country skiing in their backyard. We talked about Emily Dickinson, the TV show The Bachelor. We talked about politics. We made our Antonio's pizza stops and ate the best waffles you've ever had. They're basically famous, if you know the Koflers. I'll never forget the stories about visiting Japan, Tata's love of San Francisco, and his cool convertible car. the Matterhorn, and of course, physics. We played countless board games, most notably Boggle and Scrabble, and argued over spelling regularly declaring, "Dick, that's not even a word," before grabbing the dictionary to prove that it usually was a word. They taught me about spirited competition and how to lose with grace. They taught me how to welcome people in and how to make someone feel like family without hesitation or conditions. I brought boyfriends to meet them as a part of the official family introduction circuit. I brought friends to spend the night with me in the comfort of their guest room. I think all of these introductions are part of a flex of these are the coolest people I know, and you deserve to know them too. Look how special they are. Truly and unbiasedly, Tata is one of the kindest, smartest, humblest people I've ever met. I'm so grateful to have had both of you in my life. So I wrote a song, and I'm going to play a portion of it for you guys. I want to give a little context about how it came to be. About 1 or 2 weeks after Tata had passed away, I was sitting in my music room, and it was snowing. I don't know if anybody noticed, but every big snowstorm happened on a Sunday this past winter. So it was one of those. And I was thinking about the snow and the way the snow was falling, and it reminded me of the Nutcracker, and we frequently went to the Nutcracker. I was one of the only grandkids that, like, most of the other grandkids aged out of wanting to go to the ballet, and I kept going even into adulthood. It was something that I really, really learned to love. So I thought about the Nutcracker, I thought about the snow, and I was feeling really sad about Tata passing, and I put on some music from the Nutcracker. And my favorite song is the Pas de Deux, which is the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, for those of you that don't know. And it's a really big moment in the Nutcracker. It often symbolizes the triumph of love and the magic of childhood. And so, like, to me, that really encompassed, like, my feelings in general, right? Like, the Sugar Plum Fairy and her cavalier dancing together just makes me think of Grandma and Tata. And then the song just came to be. I'm a singer-songwriter, so I do write music. So the chords to the song, fun fact, Tchaikovsky is who wrote the music for the Nutcracker. And the first 4 chords to the song of Pas de Deux is G, E minor, C, D. For non-musicians, that probably means nothing, but what it means to me is that the song was inspired by Pas de Deux from the Nutcracker. And I'll play it for you guys. Just need one moment to set up. So the lyrics to the song are actually in your program if you're interested. Do you want me to read that? I don't need them all. Sorry, I'm used to having a bigger setup, so that doesn't ever happen when I have a giant mixer. I Don't forget the magic, the dolls and paper boxes, the ribbons tie her hair in bows of blue, and the best gift of all makes his way to the stage. The prince steals the show, steals her heart, and she drifts off to dreaming. And one day she'll be greeted with her lover's hands, and she'll dance. And don't you ever forget, we see you in the snow, we spot you in the sky, we feel you in the breeze, and we tend to wonder why you had to leave. But everybody leaves someday. And one day they'll be greeted with their lovers' hands, and they'll dance. A dance for the fairies, for children, for friends, and those that we may never see again. Now dance for love, for romance, the sugar plum dance, the sugar plum dance, and they'll dance. If anybody is interested, I have a full video of that whole song. I'd be happy to share it with you. Thank you so much. We have Bob coming up next.
Can you hear me without the microphone? No. One person said no, it's no. Can you hear me now? Yes. Very good. Okay. In putting together what I have to say, I talked to my wife Norma a bit, and so we consulted on some of these things, and I appreciate having her help. And I'm really honored to stand here today with you. I'm deeply saddened by the loss of our friend and colleague, Dick. But the sadness is tempered. It really is tempered by the warm recollections of his presence, by all of the things that he represented, the qualities he demonstrated, his impact, his caring, his kindness, his thoughtfulness, his steady hand. You've heard those things a bit earlier today already, but they really did typify Dick. He gave us a special gift too, and it resulted from his ability to attract a terrific life partner, Rosemary. Because of Dick, we have Rosemary. And they supported each other, each made the other stronger, and they did it all the time. And it was wonderful to see that. So, I was an undergraduate at the University of Massachusetts. I came back to become a faculty member in 1970, but Dick joined the faculty in 1965. So I've known Dick and Rosemary Norman and I have since 1970. He was a very early contributor to the growth of the physics department. When I left in the spring of 1965, there were 18 faculty members. When I came back in the fall of 1970, there were 52. I was number 52. And Dick's career typically involved collaborations with hundreds of people at major high-energy physics accelerator centers in CERN and Stanford University. And that kind of collaboration required very thoughtful cooperation. It required that steady hand. It required strength when the belief you had needed to be defended in front of colleagues, because in the end it was right. And it took respect for those other opinions of other people. And Dick had those qualities. He could listen to an argument that wasn't necessarily one he had, but he could appreciate the depth and quality of that argument and perhaps take some of it into his own believing, because he listened very carefully. He worked with a colleague, Dan Hertzbach, in the department, to create a rather unique relationship with how you do physics, really. He and Stan shared, they each had their own position, but one would double teach in the spring and go off to, say, the Accelerator Center in California, and in the other semester, and the other one would double teach in that semester when the other one was away. And so they could effectively contribute in a significant way to a major international collaboration, and that enhanced the international stature of our department. And that was a real achievement for Dick and for Stan and his colleagues. I've got paper, I don't usually have one of these in front of me, but at times it got so emotional thinking about it that I figured I better have this crutch. Now, Dick treated everybody with respect, students, faculty members, staff, and he really appreciated their contributions. He would show his appreciation not just by saying thank you occasionally. For example, with the staff in the area of the department in which he worked, for quite some time, he brought in coffee and treats once a week, and they appreciated that because he appreciated them. He was not trying to curry favor at all. He just deeply appreciated what the staff did, and they cherished the fact that somebody cared that much about their contributions. He cared, and that word "he cared" is going to reappear here, because he really did care, and it was a crucial aspect of it. You'll shortly hear in more detail from Doug Alden about his teaching, but he was truly gifted. He was admired by his students. He was always there for them. He was well prepared. He did wonderful lecture demonstrations. He spoke clearly, but not too fast. He used the blackboard, which of course, well, many of us would still do, but he used the blackboard. It tended to slow the speaker down, and that helped the students. He loved to learn. He instilled his students, and Doug will have more to say about that, because Doug was a student in one of his classes, and Doug was instrumental in creating a scholarship fund in the department to honor Dick each year when a student received this. At least that's my belief. Okay, so when he was in his time in Amherst, he had a quiet hand in a number of things. He was one of the leadership team of the Amherst League of Women Voters. In his condo association, he played a key role because he cared about it. And whenever an expense came up, it was difficult sometimes to meet. And so Dick helped institute the idea that we should invest in the treasury of the association for the future. So when a big expense came, it wasn't such a shock to everyone. It's a great thing to do. And he never drew attention to himself directly. His actions would draw attention to what he had achieved. He did not boast. He simply received recognition for his contributions. Terrific, just terrific. Now, Norma and I were newcomers in 1970, as I mentioned. And once Dick and Rosemary and other colleagues realized that we weren't just graduate students, they took us under their wing. And they helped guide us for the first few years we were here. Together, there were 5 couples in total, created this little group called the Dogs. And there's some discussion that continues about exactly what DOGS, drop the S, the DOG stood for. And in fact, that discussion, as I said, continues today. Old has become the middle word. marching band. It was almost a religion. He loved the thing. The band was very, very good. And we used to go to these games in the 70s. The band was terrific. The football team was horrible. It went through a bit of a resurgence, but it's horrible again. And on one chilly day, several of this dog group sat in the stands watching the game. Now, there weren't a lot of people left by the third quarter, and I recall us being one of the very few left at the end, where we were able to slide over to the 50-yard line, where the university finally scored 6 points in losing to it was either Boston College or Boston University by a score of 93-6. We were fortified by beverages. Scrutiny at the gate was thin. Security is better these days, the team isn't. And so in about 1991, this little group of friends began to travel together every August for 3, eventually 5 nights. We'd take over an inn, and we'd hang out, we'd explore, but we would bask in the genuine warmth of the relationships and friendships that we had among the 10 of us. Just a truly exceptional collection of close friends. And there were hikes up a hill, usually, or even a little mountain, maybe. And there was a reward at the end. Great view, maybe. But there was always a reward at the end that we knew of. Because Dick would get up there pretty nearly the first, and he'd always have chocolate. And he would share the chocolate, and he had plenty of it. It was great. And exploring a town, you could always count on Dick's radar to focus in on an ice cream store. Watch the video, there was ice cream all over. The ice cream, he would say, well, let's just stop and take a look. Right, just a look. He'd be the first one out of the car, and Norma would be right behind him. We laughed a lot on those trips. Laughter is great for people. We laughed a lot, and sometimes it was out of control hilarious. In 1992, we were together at the Pilgrim Inn. Some of us, all of us couldn't make it, but some of us were together at the Pilgrim Inn in Maine. We were having a great old time playing games. And we were out in the, what was their bar room, but really it was their sort of game room. And they were closing the place. They said, we'll leave the bar open, just on a tab if you want. And we were just hanging out playing games. And we played the game of Pictionary. I don't know if you know it. It was probably the most remarkable laugh I have ever experienced in my life. Rosemary as well, and I have quite a picture of that. It was just wonderful. So, we shared many adventures. We even shared things. You may know, but may not, that Norma and Rosemary are both registered nurses. And Rosemary discovered that a pediatrician in the local medical office had an opening. And Rosemary had a great idea. Maybe the two of them should share it. Now, what pediatrician wouldn't want that? If one was sick, the other could cover, no problem. No problem at all. So, they did that. They shared it. And the group occasionally, brought our medical group, we went on a ski vacation together. We arrived late. There were more people than beds. Well, somehow, the 4 of us, Dick, Rosemary, Norma, and myself, ended up in the same bed. Must have been a pretty good sized bed. We were like sardines in the can, Dick on one side, me on the other, Rosemary and Norma next to each other, and our role was to keep somebody from rolling out of bed. Funny in retrospect, but it was a tight squeeze. Okay, so I'm getting near the end here. Dick and Rosemary have been dedicated and caring parents, and you've heard that from their children, how dedicated and caring those parents were. They've been great grandparents, and indeed great grandparents. When a couple of us in the little group proudly proclaimed a first great grandchild recently, Rosemary, in the gentlest and kindest way, said, "We have 4." And the oldest is 18. Quiet pride, humility, accomplishments in that family. Jennifer, Jonathan, Michelle, rest assured, we'll be there for your mom as the years go by. So let me close. We've lost many friends, colleagues, family members, all of us. And we share the loss of Dick. My mother told me when I was quite young, at the time when I lost my father, life is for the living. And I know Dick had a very similar sentiment about that. And I appreciate that parallel between us. And so today we warmly remember and celebrate a wonderful person who enjoyed a grateful life. Just great. And he genuinely cared. When the 4th of July celebration comes along this year, think again of Dick. It would have been his 91st birthday. And next is Doug.
Hi. First, I need to set the record straight. Is Liz here? Liz Brackett? There she is. So just want to set the record straight that the scholarship fund, Professor K, I call him, Professor Kofler, started by Liz Brackett over there. So I'll set the record straight.
Sorry, Liz.
It's okay. Look, he gave some extra punch for the scholarship. So anyways, that's what I want to say pretty much, not much different than you've heard already. I'm going to talk about Dick the man and then Dick as the teacher. But I call him Professor K, Professor Kofler. So as far as Dick as the man goes, he was instrumental for me. When I graduated high school and I came to UMass Amherst, I was a stress muffin. I was just like, you know, just started college and I just kind of was brought up that if you don't make it in college, you won't make it in the outside world. So I had a lot of stress. But Professor K was my advisor, and as people talked about him, he was kind and empathetic and caring. And so I went to talk to him often. And so, anyways, it's amazing. But as a teacher, so we have a couple students here from the same class. I think we have Liz and Rob Siegel here. Anyone else from the class? Three of us here. But he was an amazing teacher. We've heard about him as a teacher. He was just kind and he was extremely prepared. All the classes were amazing. I think one time he won the teaching award, I believe.
1969.
Yeah, 69. He was just an amazing teacher. And all the classes were fun and wonderful. And so just two little stories. He used to give these open-ended exams. And they were, so we'd meet at the 1033 lounge. And one time I brought a pillow and a pajamas and a blanket. Because, we really didn't know how long we would be there for. But it was usually like a 6 hours or something, 4 to 6 hour exam. But it was comfortable. And there wasn't any end in it. But and the only other story I can think of as right now is the Playboy Centerfold story. So back in the remember the days of the overhead projectors? The overhead, there'd be a screen and everything. So the professor, before Professor K, used to always use the overhead projector. And as mentioned, he usually didn't use the board. So anyway, one time, one of us put these Playboy Centerfold behind the screen. So he started the class and says, okay, today we're going to talk about astronomy. And then he pulls the screen up and he goes, but we could talk about anatomy today. So I'll just leave with that and I just want to echo again, everything you heard today as a man, just amazing, kind, empathetic, caring, and as a teacher, he was just an amazing teacher. And that's why it's represented by, we have 3 students here from that class. So that's about it. I'm turning it over, who am I turning this over to?
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Bob, and everyone. Okay, great. So I'm just going to introduce, are we doing the full story? Or just a song? Okay. I'm just gonna introduce a song that we're gonna play that was performed by a Japanese family that were close to Rosemary and Dick. Keiko lived with Rosemary and Dick when she was a graduate student at UMass, and we got to know them she raised a family, got married and raised a family, and this song is sung by the daughter of Keiko. It's sung by Yasuko and Tomoko Kawai. The lyrics are in the program.
You're so too. So before we conclude the program by singing a song together, this is an opportunity for anyone to stand up and share or sit down and share any memories, thoughts, anything. I can pass the microphone around if anyone wants to raise their hand if they have something to share. That would be
Let me just grab some.
awesome. Okay. And thanks.
We do have a
everyone.
spare microphone, which I have, and I can bring it to anybody that raises their hand, or you can come up.
I think he's got something back there, John. Okay.
The woman who had the guitar said I could use it. Ryan said I could use your guitar. Sure. Thank you. Is it on? So, my name is Robbie Siegel. I was a student of Dick's in 50 years ago in the class with Doug and Liz. So this was Physics 171, 172, honors first and second semester general physics. As many folks have said, especially as Bob said, he was the gold standard as a professor. I mean, those of us who were students would talk, you know, who's good, who's great, who's not so good, you know. So, you know, you'd ask, how's so-and-so? Well, he's okay, but he's not Dick Kofler. You know, how's this person? He's okay, but he's not Dick Kofler. And, you know, as I've thought about it over the years, he almost ruined me in terms of the expectation, not only for a college professor, but for like any professional interaction, like almost for the rest of my life. Right? The combination of intellect and detail and patience and kindness, yes, kindness, but as a classroom teacher, he was amazing. There was the part of it that was theater, and he was very good at the theater. And I think he loved doing the part of it that was theater. The one that I'll remember for my entire life was early on in the class, he did a lecture about pressure, and about pressure distributed over an area. And so he had a bed of nails. He rolled in this bed of nails, and he was wearing a nice shirt. So while facing the class, he took off the nice shirt. Underneath it, he was wearing a t-shirt. And then he lay down on the bed of nails, and he proceeded to lecture from a prone position on the bed of nails, explaining that this won't hurt him because the pressure is distributed over an area. And then he stood up and went to the blackboard, and everyone went, because his back was covered with red dots, which of course were red magic marks that he had placed on the t-shirt that he was wearing underneath the dress shirt. And he did this so seamlessly, right, standing up. But that was just the theory. The last day of Physics 172, so this was E&M and thermal, right? Second semester honors general physics. I'm a musician, and so I dashed off this song and I played it the last day of class. So this was now 49 years ago. 20 years ago, Liz and Doug and I arranged a reunion of this class, which not only did we remember fondly, but Dick also remembered it fondly. I believe it was the only year he taught the honors version of general physics and taught both semesters because of what Bob was saying about the split position. So not only did we remember him, he remembered us. So we had this reunion, and I was asked to play the Physics 172 Blues, right, which I had played the whole time. And I wasn't prepared, and I didn't have it with me. I didn't think it was something that anyone would remember, so I didn't. About 9 months ago, Rosemary and I were swapping email, and she said, Dick is asking if you still have the lyrics to the 172 Blues. And I said, well, let me see if I can find it. So I went into the basement. I'm a pack rat, and especially songs. I have lyrics to songs I wrote in junior high school. So I ripped the basement apart, and I found the homeworks. I found every homework. I found all of the exams, but I could not find the song lyrics. In preparation for coming here, I gave one more look, and I tore the basement apart again. And I was thinking I probably had dashed this off the night before the last class. And so maybe they're not in the homeworks, maybe they're in the class notes. So I tore the basement apart, and I found the box with my class notes from college, except for the freshman year. So I did not find them. But I thought, I dashed them off the night before, 49 years ago. How hard would it be to dash them off again? So this is like the ship of Theseus. It's not the same lyrics, but they occupy the same space. Okay.
As far as I can see, there are evil circuit diagrams descending upon me. Well, I did well in mechanics, but that knowledge ain't no use. 'Cause understanding charge distribution gives me the 172 blues. Study sessions and 6-hour-long exams, that's all true. Learning thermodynamics never was part of my plans. My entropy is increasing, and the pressure is breaking loose. 'Cause getting in all these assignments gives me the 172 blues. Physics was gonna be pretty sweet. How can I reach my static potential when I don't get any sleep? Maybe some self-inductance will give me force that I can use. 'Cause my power source is empty, and I got the 170, the 2 blues. Resistance wasn't futile, flux was more disjoint. They called it E&M, but S&M was more on point. We wanna be physics majors, but I can't take this abuse. Dear Kofler, man, we love you. You give us a serious case of the 172 blues.
microphone. I guess it's okay next. Oh, yes, absolutely. My name is Sue Dirks, and thank you, Dick's family, for all the wonderful words that you shared, the stories. You just brought them back with us today, and I sure appreciate it. And I wish I was a physics student. Well, this is a tribute that I wrote a few weeks ago as I was thinking about today. Welcoming, well-grounded, and well-beloved. Words that come to my mind when I think of our dear friend, Dick Kofler. I cast my memory back to the mid-60s when a group of us came to Amherst to begin expanding the physics, chemistry, and astronomy departments at UMass, indeed for the 5 colleges. The Koflers were amongst the group of us who arrived in this small western Massachusetts town to begin a new life as young families and fairly new professors. My first husband, Bill Irvin, and I met Dick and Rosemary early on in our Amherst days, and I well remember how welcoming they both were as we joined in with university and neighborhood gatherings. Years later, when I returned to Amherst after a 31-year absence, I was delighted to reconnect with the Koflers at the Amherst Senior Center, which was directed by Nancy Pagano. There we shared our retirement time and life-learned skills in volunteering at the many activities and committees, etc. And I lost my place. In each challenge that came along, I quickly learned how well-grounded Dick was, as he calmly and graciously contributed to productive solutions for various situations. With his gentle smile and affable nature, he added pleasure to each gathering and event. Dick was well beloved by all who met him at the Senior Center. And I know it was the same in his neighborhood and with his friends and family, as we've certainly heard today. For me personally, he was a caring friend whose listening heart brought encouragement, light, and laughter into all the porch tea times that we enjoyed with he and Rosemary. His devotion and care for Rosemary, Jennifer, Jonathan, and Michelle was a beautiful picture of a loving marriage and a devoted father. I grieve with you all for your loss of such an admirable husband and father, but I also celebrate with you for the inspiring and exceptional person Dick was and all that he shared with each of us. We are so blessed to have known such an admirable man as Dick Kofler, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
A lot of tough acts to follow here. I have never made it through a talk like this without getting emotional. I'm gonna try. I did some research once to figure out how to do it, and I read online. You can't hear me?
Just a little closer, Pete. Bring your
mouth closer.
I learned that if you take some deep breaths, gaze off into the distance, sometimes follow the lines of architecture to their points of confluence, it can redirect you and you can gain control of your emotions. So if I start looking off into the distance, it's not nothing like I'm happy to see you and take control here. But I think of when I think of Dick Kofler, I don't just think of him best friend's dad. Rick, can you come up?
I don't just think of him as my best friend's dad. When I think of Dick Kofler, I don't just think of him as my best friend's dad. I think of him as my second dad. From the day John moved in next door to me, we were inseparable, and I spent as much time at their house as I did at my own. Rosemary and Dick were always so warm and welcoming and made me feel as if I were part of the family, and I second that. Their home was always so relaxed, warm, and fun. Dick made us the world's best waffles on Saturday mornings after Friday night sleepover parties. He taught us how to play poker together. He played all kinds of games with us. He took us to UMass football games, concerts, and events. He took us to run laps with him on the cool wooden track with banked turns beneath the UMass basketball arena. Dick and Rosemary were ahead of their time. They were runners before running was a thing. They ate health food before it was a thing. Lentils. First time I had them too. Dick did strength training in the basement while we watched cartoons on Saturday morning. He was amazingly strong, lean, and fit. Dick was a model of how to be a loving husband, father, and friend. Dick always had a clear, pure twinkle in his eyes, one that conveyed happiness, peace, contentment, and love of life, and love for those in his life. His example was indelible on me, even though I did not know it at the time, teaching me important life lessons about how to be a good man and a happy person. About a year ago, I happened to be in Amherst on July 4th, and John was visiting from Colorado for Dick's birthday. I wanted to see John, and I brought Dick a birthday gift, and I brought it over to their home on Macintosh Lane. I wrote him a card that I read out loud, sharing my deep gratitude and appreciation for his example and influence in my childhood and my life. I'm so glad that I did. Rosemary, Rosemary, John, Jennifer, and Michelle. Thank you all for putting up with me for those years on Palmview Drive and for sharing your home, your family, and your awesome dad with me. I get really teary-eyed in these things, I'm sure. I just want to stay up here because I have a few. I didn't prepare words, but I have words in my heart. I do remember the first time I ever had lentils, and they were amazing. I remember playing with Michelle. We were friends. In the summer going over, and Rosemary, this is more Rosemary memory than Dick. The two of you are so intertwined. You are such an example of such a Anyways, I remember your amazing whole wheat macaroni and cheese, which was macaroni and butter, and I'd never had like whole wheat noodles before. But I just want to say, one time I remember in college I was doing a bike trip across from San Francisco down the coast of California with one of my roommate from college, and we flew out there with Rosemary and Dick. Rosemary, you met us at the airport and brought us to your home. And Dick and Rosemary were so warm and welcoming. We've grown up in Palmview, but here we're out in California, San Francisco, and I believe, Rosemary, when is your wedding anniversary?
June 13th.
I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm making that up in my head, but I think we were there around your anniversary, and you and Dick took us out. We went to see Moonstruck at the movie theater. You brought us to Lombard Street to see the Crazy Twisted Street, and you even brought us to the Red Light District. I remember just never having done something like that before, but there were Rosemary and Dick. They were just that love of life and that twinkle in his eye, and you both are so intertwined in my mind. It's hard to talk about Dick without talking about you, but you both made such an impression on me as a child, and your marriage and your love, and I always felt so loved, and I'm so grateful to you and Dick for that real love. Yeah, thank you.
I'm terrified, but I could get there. I'm kind of like his children, their children. Can I just put this down so I can tremble over here? I don't know how to work these. So I also was a student of Dr. Kofler's. I'm gonna cry. This has been the most beautiful thing, and I also want to thank Rosemary for all the spaghetti dinners for our 6-hour exams. They were just amazing. I was in the next year after the famous year, I guess 76, 77, no, 76, 77. I was actually 2 years later, or 77, 78. So I wanted to talk about how I ended up in his class, which was kind of, that wasn't gonna happen. So I was a freshman. I actually knew the family a little, I was Michelle's gymnastics, Jennifer's teammate, but Michelle's coach, because that's how I afforded gymnastics at the Wexlers, So that Michelle was with this little 6-year-old, she was utterly adorable, and Jennifer was teammates, so we were just, doing our thing. And anyway, so I knew the family, kind of, I knew the girls. So anyway, I'm starting off at UMass Amherst, and I go to orientation, and I'm as lost as I always have been. It's like, okay, what happens now? Familiar with the campus. My dad was also a professor, so another faculty brat here. I am so nervous. So I'm just kind of walking down some way to go into some room in Herder Hall or something, and this man is like, oh, him, I remember him. And he sits down with me, and he's like looking at my SAT scores, and he sees where my potential is not. I think it was sort of a coin toss on the English version of that exam. But he saw some potential somewhere else, and he said, I was already signed up, some grad student assistant person. He was a dean at the time, right? And so that's why he was there, helping us figure out what classes. So somebody else had already kind of gotten all my classes together, and I don't know how he found me, honestly, but we sat down, and he says, no, you're not gonna take that one. You're gonna take this physics class, but not this year. You're gonna take calculus this year, and you're gonna take physics next year with me. And I thought, oh, okay. I'm 18, I don't know a darn thing. It was, I was like, okay. He said, yeah, because physics is really best with calculus, and you have a little high school calc, but you know what? Let's just get it all in. And I'm like, okay. I was like a botany declared person, which didn't end up being my major, but so there I was in sophomore year, loved calc, and he also told me to take the calc for engineers. Like, okay. As I said, I think he just saw a picture and was like, okay, this isn't your strength, but I think you're gonna be okay because your math score is all right. So that was just amazing, really. He totally changed the trajectory of my college education just in this one little like bubble sheet, right? It was phenomenal, really. So I want to say a little something about the class. Everybody knows he's an amazing human. I'm ready to cry thinking about everything, the energy in the room about this man. He indeed was an incredible professor. He was like my best professor ever, for sure. And I sound like a valley girl, I'm so nervous. So I remember, I heard people talking about how playful he was, and sure enough, thank you for reminding me about the bed of nails, because I had forgotten that one. And then he, did the little equal and opposite reaction thing with the skateboard or whatever it was, and the little pushy thing, and off he went across the room. And then the apple and the liquid nitrogen, and the throwing it against the wall, and right? Like, oh, there was one more. Oh, the bicycle wheel thing, right? The bicycle wheel thing was fun. Yeah, angular momentum. The wind spills and you go on a turntable and around the circle you go. It was really fun. And then there was, somewhat to my embarrassment, there was a static ball. Like, I don't remember physics well enough to know what but there was some ball. And if you touched it, there was like some static electricity, and I was the only woman in the class, and I had long brown hair. So he asked me to come down and put my hands on this ball. So my hair, of course, went out like that. So that was that. That was fun. And yeah, 6-hour exams. It was just like homework that we just had to do in one evening, fueled by Rosemary's Spaghetti. And I'm pretty sure, even though 78, 79, I had them both semesters, didn't I? No, it would have been someone else. Maybe it was Ed King the second semester. Yeah, you don't remember. I mean, I think I got them both semesters. Anyway, fabulous guy. I'm very moved by what everybody's saying in your blues tune was awesome. It's people who've had him as a student. I think that everybody who ever had him would look back and think, yeah, that was the guy. He was amazing. Thank you for listening, and thank you for bringing my adrenaline slightly down. I appreciate it.
What else left? Want to come up here?
I'm not sure if I was the only teacher in here. A lot of students came, but I was actually his teacher, his dance teacher. So Rosemary took lessons for years. He was amazing. And after class, we'd always go and have tea. He'd buy everyone desserts because he loved desserts so much. So I saw a lot of cookies. I couldn't help myself. I already stole a couple. When I was eating them, I was thinking about him because he loved cookies so much. And Rosemary and Dick were beautiful dancers. We actually did performances. Many of you maybe don't even know it. There's some pictures of him there dancing. And he loved tango, and he loved foxtrot, and he loved waltz. I'm gonna miss him so much.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
I was close.
Okay. I'm just gonna read a few, or one or two to remembrances that were sent to my mom. So this was written by Rosemary's sister, Marilyn. And it says, Richard Kofler was my brother-in-law, but he was so much more. He was like a brother, a part of my life for almost 71 years, longer than anyone I know except for family. He was a gentle soul, kind, always pleasant, and a joy to be with. He was one of my parents' favorite people. As Rosemary's boyfriend, he was always welcomed with open arms. After our marriages, our lives became busy with jobs, raising a family, and moving away from Milwaukee. So visits became very important. But so were letters and phone calls. What do I remember about Dick? His intelligence, perfect penmanship, love of travel, best hugs, best mashed potato maker, love of chocolate, ice cream, and candy, and his voice on the phone calls saying, "Hi, Meryl." Most of all, his love for Rosemary, their long marriage and 71 years together. So, and then this is a remembrance from Keiko and Masao, and they were, their children are the ones that sang that song that we played earlier. And the letter is, Dear Dick, it was in the summer of 1967 when Keiko visited you and Rosemary at your residence in North Amherst. An article appeared in a local journal about a Japanese female graduate student looking for an American family who could offer her board and meal in exchange for babysitting their children. 16 families responded to the article. After visiting several families, Keiko immediately decided to stay with your family because she was so attracted by your warm feeling and clear English. Furthermore, your 7-year-old lovely daughter, Jennifer, and your 5-year-old cute boy, Jonathan, charmed Keiko. Michelle wasn't born yet. Thanks to your great generosity and kindness, Keiko spent 2 years of very happy days living with you while studying at the University of Massachusetts until she got married to Masao, who was working as a diplomat at the Embassy of Japan in Canada. During her challenging and precious time in Amherst, you both treated Keiko as one of your family members. Keiko has always been grateful to you for your everlasting warm-hearted help, kindness, and understanding. That was the greatest experience and memory in her life. She learned a lot of things from you as a humanist, academic, and friendly person. She admired your way of living always with your beloved wife, Rosemary, inviting lots of friends for cheerful talks over delicious dinners. Both of you were always willing to offer help to other people. Our children are also thankful to you. You gave them a lot of kind care and support when they were young. They are grown up now and admire and respect both of you as an ideal couple. Our most precious memory, Dick, is that you and Rosemary drove from Amherst all the way up to Ottawa to attend our wedding ceremony as Keiko's host family. Your presence was the most encouraging and honorable matter to Keiko, since her parents in Japan could not attend. When Masao was Japanese ambassador to Norway, your visit to us in Oslo meant so much. In 2009, you visited us in Nikko, Japan, to share our life in retirement. What a great feeling to have Keiko's American parents visiting her homeland. Dick, you have left us, but your soul is still living in our mind and memory. We pray for your peace in your soul. With love, Keiko and Masao. And this is a letter from Dick and Sally Giglio, who were very close family friends of ours who couldn't be here today. mention Dick Kofler, and we think of wonderful adventures, hiking and skiing, of hospitality and good food, and of course, Rosemary, his lifelong partner. We traveled together literally all over the world, including a 2-month European adventure. Once, while staying with them in Berkeley, until our California rental became available, I knocked over a large lamp globe in our bedroom. Dick and Rosemary, trying to sleep on the level below, heard me sweeping up the scattered glass. The next morning at breakfast, Dick said, "I don't know what you guys do in the bedroom, but from the noise, I'm convinced it involves chains." We'd be remiss if we didn't mention Michelle, Jonathan, and Jennifer. Our families were an important element in our adventures. We're sorry that our own medical issues prevent us from being here with the family that has been such a part of our lives, but we know they understand the depth of our feelings. With love, Dick and Sally. And this comes from Ed Chef, sweet and simple, another lifelong family friend. Dick Kofler, a sparkling personality, a brilliant mind, and a generous heart. That's just about everything. Is there one more?
Yeah. This is from Ronald Loescher, and the Loeschers were also very welcoming to the Kofler, and our families shared many adventures and ski vacations and things together. So here's what Ron wrote for Dick. Dick was our next door neighbor for almost 50 years. They are our neighbors, good neighbors, great neighbors, and only if you are really lucky does your next door neighbor become a true, deep friend. Dick and Rosemary were that kind of a blessing. First of all, they had 3 kids, 2 girls and a boy, and each of their kids lined up exactly in age and gender with our 3 kids. What are the chances? Our kids became friends. We traveled together, rented a ski chalet at Mont Saint-Anne in Quebec for a week, several winters. Dick and I, along with Randy Prescott, led our boys on multiple backpacking trips in all seasons. Starting on the Metacomet-Monadnock Trail, and then progressing to the Long Trail in Vermont, including several cold winter multi-day trips. Dick was always steady and good-natured. He was kind, slow to anger, controlled, thoughtful, and loving. He had a passion for life that was infectious. He loved to laugh. My wife Nancy and I often marveled and felt envious of how Dick and Rosemary would be going out to concerts, plays, and community events. They always had something fun and interesting going on. I know Dick was a great professor, teacher, and scientist. I know he was a great husband and father. I know that he was a wonderful neighbor and friend. I will miss him. Thank you, Ron. That's beautiful. And it goes both ways. So thank you for everything from your family. Anyone else? Okay, I guess we've reached the end, and there's a song that we want to play with, and I'll play the music.
So we'll ask you all to join us for the lyrics are in your program, and instrumental music will be played. And I'm not going to be up here singing. It's karaoke.
Well, I guess we have extra time to mingle. Is that what we're gonna do? And have refreshments. And it really is Dick's life. It's a celebration. Dick was just, I feel like his life was just a celebration. And so let's continue.
So many of you. It's wonderful to have you all here. And the words that everyone spoke are really in my heart. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. You.
So mingle, please.